Jermaine, how are you? How are you doing? I've received a lot of text messages, emails, and I've received a few phone calls, people inquiring, how am I doing? And they're checking on me as a black man in lieu of what's happening across the country, but particularly because I live in the Twin Cities and the recent incident with George Floyd, people are checking in with me. And so I come into my office this morning to write, right? Trying to finish this book. And I can't write and edit to the degree that I want to because of a concept in communication that social scientists call psychological noise, meaning that internally I am preoccupied with issues, situations, and circumstances that's affecting my perceptions and my ability to think clearly. So one of the things we talk about when you experience psychological noise is to acknowledge it, right? So don't ignore it and acknowledge it. However, I want to speak to this. People want to know what to do. I just want to share a few thoughts with you. It was around 1999, 2000 when I was first invited to give a presentation on diversity and inclusion. And after that, I started to research in that area, not just look at my experience as a black man in America and look at all the atrocities and the different forms of oppressions that affect different marginalized groups in our country. Being an academician, I really wanted to teach people how to be better communicators, leaders, and advocates in that space. So one of the things that I want to share with you is to think about how you show up in this world is one of the areas and ways that you can make a big difference. So not everyone is given or has access to a giant platform as far as celebrity base. But the internet and social media allows people to share messages. So I want you to think about this. I was thinking about Ida B. Wells. Now, Ida B. Wells was a teacher, an advocate, but primarily Ida B. Wells' weapon, tool, apparatus that she used to make a difference at that time was that pen and pad or that typewriter. She wrote about the injustices that were happening at that period in her life. She utilized her platform. And then, have you ever heard of James Spider Martin? James Spider Martin, or affectionately known as Spider, was a photographer during the civil rights era that periodically would travel with King. And with his camera, he utilized that tool, that apparatus, to capture the atrocities, the despicable behaviors that were happening because there were many people who dismissed those things. So one of the things I want you to think about is how can you make a difference with your unique platform, with your unique tags, your talents, your abilities, your gifts, your skills. Don't try to do what other people do. Utilize your tags to make a difference. So I want to share this with you. So after that presentation in 1999, I started to research more and eventually I wrote a book. And I want to share a couple of things with you in this space. When we think about diversity, inclusion, equity, justice, liberating people, I want you to think about there's three attitudes that I write about that people can have about any forms of injustice, inequalities, inequities, discrimination. Apathy, sympathy, and empathy. Number one, apathy is without feelings, without emotion, and without action. An apathetical person doesn't care. They don't give a damn about what happens to black people, What happens to people in the gay community? What happens to the disparities that happen in healthcare or anything related to sexism? Whatever that issue is or issues are, an apathetical person says, I don't care. And I love the quote by Elie Wiesel. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. And then George Bernard Shaw went on to say, the greatest sin towards mankind, I'll add humankind, is not to hate them, but to be indifferent. When people are indifferent, they don't care. So people could watch the news like, I don't care about those damn people. F those people. I don't care. Now think about this. If you have power, resources, and you're in a leadership role, and you have an apathetical attitude and behaviors, do you know what kind of havoc you can wreak in communities? You can create barriers and access. Second person, sympathetic. These are the individuals that have feelings, they're touched, they're moved. They look at what happened to George and the incident with the police officer's knee in his neck, in a critical part of his anatomy where he can breathe. They can look at that and be touched, cry, get emotional, maybe have some traumatic or triggering events, and they shut down. But they don't do anything. So a sympathetic person is a person who has emotions, have feelings, but they don't take action. They don't do anything. And then I write about the person with empathy. Apathy, sympathy, empathy is the person who feels, who allows themselves to feel, who dig, who are inquisitive, who do some things in communication, what we call perspective taking. I want to know what's going on. So they don't just acquire information and education, they take action. So they have emotions with their actions to do something. So what can you do? There are many things that you can do, but in the purpose of this video, I want you to be aware, I want you to acknowledge, I want you to take action. Anytime you see an injustice, this is why King's quote is often quoted. An injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Now, if you really read that letter in Birmingham, he goes deeper. He talks about, I can't sit idly in Atlanta and not be concerned about what's going on. But the apathetical person says, I don't care. It's not my people. It's not my friend. Look at them. What can you do? Sir Isaac Newton talked about this. Challenge the inertia. What will you do? How will you challenge the inertia? Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth. These were individuals who challenged the inertia. What is inertia? Inertia. Simply, Sir Isaac Newton says, an object or force will continue to move in the same direction unless acted upon by an outside force. Challenge the inertia. Utilize your platform. If you don't challenge the inertia, guess what? Things will stay the same. The opposite of motivation isn't laziness. The opposite of motivation is complacency. I'm comfortable, so I'm not going to do anything. Nothing happens until something moves. I did a video last week on that. Nothing happens until something moves. What will you do? How will you utilize your platform? Make a difference. Rest in peace, Brother George. Prayers to his family, healing across the nation. Make a difference. Lead the way of positive change. Peace out, Dr. Jermaine.